At this very moment, you're either breathing air in or breathing air out. When we breathe air in and out, our body is exchanging gases with the environment in a process called respiration. Why do our bodies need to carry out this process? What gases are needed and produced in respiration? What structures are involved in the process of respiration? How can we take care of these structures? And what are some of the problems that occur with these structures? During the next few minutes, we're going to explore these questions and others as we investigate respiration. Chances are, as hard as you try, you can't hold your breath for much longer than 40 to 60 seconds. This is because you need to breathe. Breathing involves the exchange of gases between the body and the external environment. All animals need to breathe. You can see the chilled breath of these elk as they exhale on a crisp autumn morning. Even fish have the ability to breathe in water through special structures called gills. Why do animals, including humans, need to breathe? It has to do with the process of cellular respiration that many different types of organisms carry out. In the complex process of cellular respiration, oxygen gas and other materials are used to produce energy. Carbon dioxide is a byproduct and is expelled into the environment as a waste gas. This rather complex process is also referred to as aerobic cellular respiration. In order for this process to occur, gases must be exchanged or transferred between the organism and the environment. The gas exchange process takes place in the respiratory systems of animals. Let's take a closer look at the human respiratory system. Take a deep breath. Where did you feel air enter your body? Air enters the body through the nose or mouth. The air you breathe is cleaned, filtered, warmed, and moistened as it leads to your lungs. The nasal cavity and upper part of the respiratory system is lined with mucous membranes and small hairs that help accomplish these tasks. From the nasal cavity or mouth, air enters the pharynx or throat. After leaving the pharynx, air passes into the larynx, also called the voice box. The voice box, consisting mostly of cartilage, also contains vocal cords that consist of thin membranes stretched across the larynx. Exhaled air vibrates the vocal cords. We use these vibrations to speak and sing. To prevent choking while swallowing food and water, the larynx is blocked by a flap called the epiglottis. Choking is the result of food or other material mistakenly getting past the epiglottis into the larynx and blocking air from entering the passage. The larynx leads directly into the windpipe, also called the trachea. The trachea is about 12 centimeters long and only about 2.5 centimeters wide. The trachea divides into two branches called the bronchi. Each bronchi leads to a lung. The lungs are the sites of gas exchange in the human body. It's a very important job. Let's take a closer look at the lungs. Under the ribs in your chest are two very important structures called lungs. Lungs are the site of gas exchange. In the lungs, bronchi branch out into smaller and smaller tubes called bronchioles. Small bronchioles end in tiny air sacs called alveoli, arranged kind of like grapes on a stem. Alveoli consist of thin membranes lined with a dense network of capillaries across which gas exchange occurs with blood cells. Here, oxygen is picked up and carbon dioxide is given off by the blood. There are over 300 million alveoli in the lungs. Their total surface area would cover a good part of this soccer field. Smoking makes it difficult for oxygen to be exchanged through alveoli. It's estimated that at least 1/3 of the smoke inhaled from smoking coats alveoli with particles. Too many particles from smoking or other forms of pollution damage the walls of the alveoli, causing inelastic scar tissue to form. Playing a musical instrument takes a lot of air. So does playing a sport. Maybe you've noticed that when breathing hard, your chest rises and falls quickly. You feel the air rushing in and out of your nose and mouth. Breathing is the process of moving air into and out of the lungs. There are two main phases of breathing: inhalation and exhalation. Inhalation is the process of air going into the lungs. You observe. What happens to your chest when you inhale? Your chest and/or your stomach move out. In fact, try to breathe in without moving your chest or stomach. It's impossible to inhale without them moving. Why? This is because the work of breathing is actually done by the diaphragm and the intercostal muscles. Those are the muscles located between the ribs. The diaphragm is a sheet of muscle below the lungs, separating the chest cavity from the abdomen. When the diaphragm and the intercostal muscles contract, the size of the chest cavity increases. The enlarged chest cavity creates a situation in which the air pressure is lower in the chest than outside the body. Air then rushes from an area of higher pressure outside the body to an area of lower pressure inside the lungs. So as you can see, when you breathe, you aren't really sucking air in, but instead a pressure difference causes air to rush into the lungs. It's possible to consciously control your breathing, but for the most part, breathing is an involuntary process. Breathing continues even though you don't consciously control it. This occurs even while you sleep. Breathing is controlled in a part of the brain generally referred to as the respiratory center. Feedback is continually given to this part of the brain to adjust the rate of breathing. Receptors in the aorta and other arteries sense pH levels and gas levels, such as carbon dioxide in the bloodstream. As carbon dioxide levels increase, the brain sends a message to the diaphragm and intercostal muscles to increase the rate and depth of breathing. This lowers the amount of carbon dioxide and raises the amount of oxygen in the blood. Your resting respiration rate varies between 12 to 25 breaths per minute, but it's easily and quickly altered by changes in activity as well as fear or stress. Every day, your respiratory system is exposed to harmful substances and organisms in the air. Most of the time, these things do not create respiratory problems, but occasionally they do, as is the case with the common cold. Chances are, at some point, you've had a cold. Colds are most often caused by viruses that often attack the respiratory system. Symptoms often include swollen respiratory tissues that make breathing difficult, as well as irritated eyes and nasal passages. Medications can relieve cold symptoms, but they rarely destroy viruses that cause colds. Pneumonia, another respiratory ailment, is more severe than a cold. Pneumonia can be caused by viruses, fungi, or bacteria. The body responds to these agents by accumulating fluid and debris in the alveoli. This inhibits the ability of the lungs to exchange oxygen. Another relatively common respiratory problem is bronchitis. You decide what part of the respiratory system is affected by bronchitis. Bronchitis involves an inflammation of the membranes of the bronchial tubes. Bronchitis may develop from bacteria or viruses that cause colds or influenza. You may know someone who has a respiratory affliction called asthma. Asthma is an allergic and inflammatory response in which airways constrict, making it difficult to breathe. Pollen, dust, smoke, strenuous exercise, and even cold air can trigger an asthma attack. Lung cancer, a very serious ailment of the respiratory system, is a disease in which tumors form in the lungs. Cancerous tumors form as the result of irregular and uncontrolled cell growth. Smoking is the #1 cause of lung cancer. Lung cancer is a leading cause of death, particularly in smokers. Smoking is also a major cause of another respiratory problem called emphysema. Emphysema is a severe lung disease caused by smoking, dirty air, or long-term exposure to smoke. These harmful substances destroy tissues in the lungs, making it very difficult for air to pass in and out of the lungs. Maintaining a healthy respiratory system is important to leading an active, exciting, healthy, and long life. There are several things you can do to help maintain this system. First, if you smoke, quit now. As soon as people stop smoking, the risk of various types of cancer, as well as heart disease and high blood pressure, drops dramatically. Eat a healthy, well-balanced diet with lots of fruits and vegetables. It's also important to exercise regularly. You should never expose your lungs to harmful substances such as toxic chemicals, dirty air, or tobacco smoke. To help prevent respiratory infections and other illnesses, it's important to wash your hands throughout the day and to maintain good overall hygiene. Finally, it's very important to have a physical examination from a doctor at least once a year. While doing all these things does not guarantee you'll have a healthy respiratory system, it greatly increases your odds. During the past few minutes, we've explored some of the fascinating characteristics and processes of respiration. We began by discussing the process of cellular respiration and the organs and structures involved in human respiration. More specifically, the nature of gas exchange within the lungs was investigated. The mechanics of inhalation and exhalation were described. The means by which breathing is controlled by the body were addressed. We then explored some respiratory problems, including the common cold, pneumonia, bronchitis, asthma, and lung cancer. Last, we discussed some of the things you can do to maintain a healthy respiratory system, enabling you to live a long and active life. Fill in the blank to complete the sentence. Number 1. In aerobic cellular, oxygen gas and other materials are used to produce energy. Number 2. Speaking and singing originate in the. Number 3. The are sites of gas exchange in the human body. Number 4. These small grape-like structures in the lungs are called. Number 5 is the process of drawing air into the lungs. Number 6. Air enters and exits the lungs due to differences in. Number 7. For the most part, breathing is an process. Number 8 is an ailment in which fluid accumulates in alveoli. Number 9. Tumors form as a result of irregular and uncontrolled cell growth. And number 10. A leading cause of lung cancer is.